Hello and welcome back to the very new channel in which I have forgotten to actually say my name in any of my videos so far. Hi, I'm Cassie. If you have water, you should drink it right now. Hello, I'm Cassie. I don't think I've said my name until now, so that's my bad. Whoops. I know it's already mid-February, but I wanted to share a list of my anticipated books that are coming out in 2023. Again, some of these have already come out because we're in February, but better late than never, and I'm sharing it anyway. Okay, so first off, Lost in the Moment and Found. This is I just hit it with my finger. This is the 8th book in the Wayward Children series. It is called Lost in the Moment and Found. I am very excited for this one, but I've heard that it's going to make me cry. Well, every review basically that I've read, without spoilers, says that this has made them cry a lot, like start to finish. And I like that, but also I need to be in like the right sort of headspace to want to cry at my media. So I'm kind of waiting for this. I actually am probably going to be reading it this week, so yeah, it's a little hard to say what this is about because it's kind of vague in the synopsis. It just says that there's a girl named Ancy, I believe, who lost her father and now she's losing herself. And I think that where she lives is like this place where lost stuff goes, maybe. Like when you lose something, you go there. There's a guy in Halloween Town who all the lost stuff goes to. I don't know, I forgot his name, but if you know what I'm talking about, that's what I'm envisioning this to be like. I don't know if that's totally off base because again, I haven't read it. I know a lot of people have already, so don't tell me if I'm wrong. I'll figure it out. The next book is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. So this is my 3rd book, I believe, by Grady, and I'm really excited for it, but I'm actually saving this. That's the only reason I haven't read this yet, because it came out in January. So I'm saving this for a vlog that I'm going to be doing a little bit later this month, or either the end of February or the beginning of March. So when I do that, I'm very excited to read this, but for now, yeah, I just have it. From what I can gather, this is about a girl whose parents die, I think, so she's going back home to like deal with the house. I think her mom like collected puppets and dolls or something, the synopsis says, which is really creepy to me, so I'm very excited for that. And then she also has a brother, I think, like kind of a brother that can't hold a job or do well, so I don't think she really wants to see him. I think they have some kind of like tension or something there, so I don't know how that's gonna pan out. I don't know how that factors into the story. I do think that the haunted house in this one is like sort of supposed to be like its own entity, because like in the synopsis it makes it seem like it doesn't want them to leave or it doesn't want them to sell it. Yeah, but some houses don't want to be sold. You gotta listen to the house, you know? I don't know. I was lucky enough to get an ARC of the next book, which is Tell Me I'm Worthless. This is actually, I think it's a reprinting because I think this originally came out, maybe it was self-published or maybe it was published by like an indie press. All right, so this is another one that came out in January. I have not read it yet. I can't say why I haven't read this one yet. So it's for a specific thing, but I'm not talking about it yet. So soon. I feel like I'm going to be saying that a bit. So yeah. I'm very thankful to have gotten an early copy of this one from Nightfire, which is the horror imprint from Tor. They're one of my favorite like imprints or like little publishers, you know, that's part of a bigger publisher. I really, really like everything that they put out. Basically, like, there are so many good books. So if you're ever looking for like horror book recommendations, especially they do novellas and stuff like that, definitely look at Nightfire. And this one is about 3 friends who go to a haunted house. So we have a theme of what I want to read this year. First theme is haunted houses. And I guess something happens in the haunted house. So they leave and later on they have to return for some reason because the house, I think, like kept one of the 3 friends and the other 2 now have to go back. So I'm not exactly sure. The plot seemed a little bit vague from what I read on Goodreads, but I'm really interested and it sounds really good. All the people that I've heard about it that either read it before release or have gotten an ARC or read it since it came out, they've either really liked it or really did not like it. So I'm very excited to see on which side of the line I'm gonna fall. All right, so we're finally out of January. I don't know why I'm pointing. We're finally out of January, and this A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. Another tour book. I'm a fangirl, what can I say? I have already read this one. It comes out in March, but I loved this book. Like, I loved it. It's horror, but there's like a bit of a mystery element as well. But it's pretty horror-y. And again, haunted sort of house. I really do have a theme. Oh, another one is that in How to Sell a Haunted House, I think that one of the big themes is like generational trauma, which if you haven't seen the cut of Jamie Lee Curtis saying trauma and like family trauma over and over again, I want you to, well, I don't want to say I want you to stop this right now. Stop it right now if you're going to come right back, but go watch that and just look up Jamie Lee Curtis trauma compilation or something. It's so good. It's so good. And me and my boyfriend constantly quote it to each other. Anyways, I had my boyfriend read the back of this book, by the way, and he came away and he was like, trauma, generational trauma. It was just so good. But so another theme, haunted houses and familial trauma and generational trauma. This one follows our main character, Sam. She is, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Bones, but there's a character, Hodgins, and his job as like the person who like looks at bugs and like old stuff, that's kind of like her job, I believe. So that was really cool because I had never read about somebody who does that job, and I had never really even seen anybody who does that job on TV other than him. So yeah. Anyway, I really liked that. She really likes bugs. Sam's totally good with bugs. I am not. There are some descriptions of bugs and things in here that freaked me out. And if you have an issue with bugs, you might want to like be careful reading this because, okay, so again, Sam goes back. She's on a job, but the job gets canceled for her like dig site or whatever because they find a body, which sounds very like what the heck, but they don't even go into that. That's not even a plot point. It's not a spoiler. It has nothing to do with the story. It's just like a little tidbit that you just learn in the very close to beginning, which is why she's at her old childhood home now visiting her mother. And her mother is like this very warm person, very liberal, very like positive, and like will fight for your rights and all this kind of stuff, loves her kids. But lately she's been acting kind of strange. And so she's going back. She doesn't really know how her mom's being strange yet. She just knows that like she's lost a bit of weight. She might be sick. She doesn't really know what's going on. I'm not going to say what's going on, but I will say I didn't know what was happening in this, and I really liked it. So if family trauma and trauma are your things, and if you like spooky houses, and also birds, bugs, like, you know, creatures, vultures, if you like that kind of stuff in your books, you're gonna love this. Like, this was so good. It was also really fun to read. It was just so much fun. I loved it. Okay, so now is a book I don't have yet. So The Insatiable Volt Sisters. This is by the same author of Tinfoil Butterfly, which I read last year, and I think I gave it like 3.5, 4 stars. I really liked it, but I had some issues with it, but it is a story that has stuck with me. So I will give the author that, and I liked her writing style. So I'm actually really excited about this one. This is like a mystery thriller. It has to do with sisters, which I always really love stories that have to do with either like girl friendships or sisters. Those always get me. And then this also has to do with generational and family trauma. So you see, I keep getting in that like realm of the same sort of thing, even if it's across different genres. I just really like that trope apparently, and I'm really excited to read it in 2023. Another thing this one has is a dual timeline. So there's supposed to be 2 sisters, and their parents are having struggles, and they're going to be separating, and so the girls are going to get separated. And so later now they're coming back, and they're going to be meeting each other again, and something's happened where they grew up. And so the one sister's calling the other sister, and she's like, I need you to come back and help me deal with this, do something. I'm not really sure. I try not to look too much into stuff because I don't want to spoil it for myself, and so I'm not trying to spoil it for you. But if you want more information than I'm giving here, if I'm just like kind of piquing your interest and you want more information, definitely go look it up. I will try to include the links below to like the Goodreads page for everything. Next up we have The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda, and I'm gonna lead with the fact that the last 2 releases of this author were not ones that I particularly cared for in the thriller genre. I don't know. I don't know if I'm reading too many thrillers recently or what, but I found them very like formulaic and very predictable. Some people don't mind that. Like, some people feel like if something's predictable, it's good, because that means like the author is doing their job. But in my opinion, since there are so many thrillers on the market, you have to do something different, that if I know what you're doing because I've read it 16 other times, it's no longer like, it just doesn't hit as hard. So that's not really a fault on the author. And I will say that if you are not very familiar with the thriller genre, you will probably like this author because it's very, very friendly to new thriller readers. But as a seasoned thriller person, they are just a little bit too basic for me. So I am putting this one on the list knowing that I might be disappointed, but I'm still really excited to read it because I do like Megan Miranda's writing. This one has another dual timeline perspective, so I think in addition to family trauma and haunted houses, I'm going to add dual timelines to the list of things that I'm very excited for this year, and just things I like in general. There are 2 buses that are on their way back from some sort of field trip or sporting event or something, 2 buses filled with high school kids and like maybe their teachers, and the buses go into like a river or something, and apparently only 9 people end up surviving. So that's not a spoiler, that's on the back of the book. So what happens is I think you're following these people 10 years later, and some of the remaining ones are dying, and I think they're doing it to themselves, but that could be like something that ends up being a twist later, I don't know. So the surviving people make a pact that they're going to, you know, check in, keep each other accountable, hold each other in line, make sure everybody's okay, but the main character doesn't want to do that anymore. It's been like 10 years, and she's like trying to put distance between her and what happened, which I think if it's something fairly traumatic and you want to put a little bit of distance, that seems fair, but I guess the universe has other plans in the story because something pulls her back in to where she has to get like very involved again, and people keep dying maybe. I don't know. I don't really know. I'm still excited to read it. All right, so in May, we have The Salt Grows Heavy, and this is really small, so it's gonna be like quick, easy, super fast to read. I will say that this author's last book, Nothing But Blackened Teeth, I think it was, I didn't like that. I had very strong feelings about disliking that, and I was in the minority. Not a lot of people dislike that from what I've heard. A lot of my friends loved it and gave it 5 stars. So I did like the author's writing, but it was a little bit too flowery for me considering how small the book was. So I don't know if I'm gonna run into that here again, but this one's supposed to be more like a fairy tale, which I do think that sort of writing will lend itself to very well, especially in like a horror sense. So I'm giving this a shot. I think I'm gonna like it. I'm very excited for it. It's supposed to be about mermaids, and I think putting like a twist on the old like mermaid meets prince and falls in love and lives happily ever after. This is like a twist on that in some kind of like brutal way, which I am here for. So I am very excited to read this. I'm really hoping I like it. I will say that if I don't like this, I don't know if I'm going to pick up another book by the author, which is nothing about them. It just personally doesn't maybe work for me. But again, if I love this, then all bets are off and I'll buy everything, you know, so. All right, so in June we have The Girls of Summer by Katie Bishop, and this is like a summery contemporary, I think. Probably going to be more of a hard-hitting one. I think it's kind of along the vein of like My Dark Vanessa in the way that it's about a girl who, when she's a teenager, has a relationship with, I just want to be clear that I'm using relationship with like air quotes, with an older man. And as she's now married and an adult and looking back on that time of her life, she's realizing maybe things weren't as rosy tinted as they seemed, and maybe he was not that good of a person. So yeah, I'm really interested in this one. It seems like there might be some sort of like thriller or mystery sort of like suspenseful thing going along with it, but I'm not sure what that is, or if it's more of just like an introspective kind of look at her past from her eyes, and the realization that what happened wasn't okay and wasn't love. Also in June we have Madeleine in the Dark, which this is like a gothic historical sort of fantasy. Historical isn't something that I read a lot of really, but this sounded kind of like very queer and sapphic, so I'm here for it. It's about a girl in like I think the 1700s maybe who plays violin, and she wants to get really, really good at it, studying under, you know, a really talented famous person, and she's still just not that great. Like, she's okay, but she's not great. So then this other girl starts at the school for some reason, like she gets banned from something else and then ends up coming here. And the relationship that these 2 girls have starts getting like a lot deeper than they expected. I think there's also maybe something suspenseful going in this one, but I'm not quite sure what, so I don't want to say and I don't want to misspeak, but it sounds very cool, and the cover, it's gorgeous, so I'm excited for that. Another one that's coming out in June, so this is a very good month for me in reading, I think, and releases, is Threads That Bind. And this is supposed to be like a Greek mythology related sort of thing. I don't know if it's specifically a retelling. I think the main character is like a descendant of the Fates, or one of the Fates. So that somehow will play into it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I heard descendant of the Fates, who is a private investigator in the sunken city of, and I stopped and I was like, yes. Yes. Just immediately, yes, just sign me up for it. You didn't even have to tell me it was a sunken city. I would have stopped at private investigator, like a PI, a cool like fate related Greek mythology related PI, like yes, but then in like a sunken city, a partially sunken city, like excellent, fantastic. I'm very, very much looking forward to this. Towards the end of June, we have The Only One Left, which I think this is another one that has to do with family trauma and maybe haunted houses. This is supposed to be like a gothic thriller, and I think it's inspired by or somehow related to the Lizzie Borden murders. So the main character is one of the nurses, I guess, taking care of this person who's now old. And when they get there, the person's like, I want to tell you everything. I'm going to tell you the truth. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of like just the prospect of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, just in the way that like I think the character's name is Monique and she's like interviewing Evelyn Hugo. So I don't think this is going to be exactly the same vibe as that book at all. This is supposed to be like very gothic-y and creepy. So yeah, I think just the interview thing just reminds me of that a little bit. But I don't know, I love a creepy old lady and a potential like mystery twist. So last June release, The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland, and this is the same author of House of Hollow, which I have not read, but I have on my shelf. So, and this is about a girl whose sister gets killed by a serial killer. So her sister gets murdered, and then she meets two other girls, and the three of them get into some witchy stuff to try to track down the serial killer, I think is what happens. And witchy stuff and serial killers, like, just sign me up for it. I am immediately here for it. This cover, yes, absolutely yes. Finally leaving June, moving on to May, and we have We'll Never Tell. And this is also a YA release. Again, it's like a mystery thriller. I just have a vibe, and that's what I'm into. I think that's pretty much horror and mystery thrillers are the only thing on this list, other than maybe like one contemporary so far. So I am what I am. This one follows a group of teenagers who are in their senior year at high school, and this group also runs a YouTube channel. And that YouTube channel is dedicated to urban exploration, which I always love as a thing in books, because when I was a troublesome teenager, I used to go with my friends, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this on the internet. What's the statute of limitations on breaking and entering as a child? Okay, I'm just gonna say that I would occasionally venture into, look, I didn't harm anything, okay? Like, I never caused damage or property. I never caused any property damage or anything like that. I was just curious, okay? And so I would go and explore places with my friends, and some of them were very creepy, and I have never read a story that I think really does that situation justice. So I'm always on the lookout for it. Like, I'm always just trying to find one that really feels like that. I found movies, you know, there are some movies that really feel like what the vibe is when you're actually like in a place you're not supposed to be, a place where it feels like bad things have happened. So anyway, back to the book. I'm very excited for this one. Apparently something does happen in the place that they break into. It's supposedly known as like a murder house from like a murder that happened there years ago. And when the four teens break into it, the cops, like an alarm gets pulled or something, and then the police come, and when the police come, the teens try to leave, and they get out, but they realize then they realize three of them got out, but there's still one inside. And apparently, like, the synopsis is a little bit jumbled. Apparently there was like some sort of attack as well. I don't know if that was from the police or if that was a different person or what is exactly happening with it. And so, like, one by one, I think they're in danger. They have to figure out who committed the murders in the past in the murder house, and then also who attacked them when they were there that night, and what happened to their friend, I think. So last up, and I know that it seems weird to be stopping this in August, but there are a bunch of books that come out at the end of the year, and I'm probably going to do a separate dedicated list for those in the middle of the year. So this is like the beginning, plus maybe a month or two, and then it'll be the rest. So the final book I'm looking forward to this year for this part is Looking Glass Sound, and this one feels very like Stephen King, like Secret Window-y. It's about a guy who's going back to like some small town to write a book, and it's his last book, and he's writing about a true story, I think, of the stuff that happened to him and a murderer who killed his childhood friends like one summer. And then there's also like a plot line about his like old friend who stole his memoir, a copy of his like not finished manuscript, and published it as like a novel, even though it was supposed to be like his personal thing. So they did that, and it ended up becoming a bestseller. And now he's in this like cabin or something, and he's like writing about all this stuff that's happened to him in his life, and he starts finding little notes around the cabin that are in the handwriting in like ink color of that friend who stole his stuff. And he's like, what the hell's happening? I think there's some kind of mystery happening, maybe an unreliable narrator sort of situation, but it does very much feel like a Stephen King novel. Like a writer, tragedies in New England, the writer's in Maine, he's writing a story, as writers do. Like, pfft, that's just got Stephen King all over it. Eventually it'll no longer be a Stephen King thing, it'll just be a thing. A lot of people do, and I'm sure it already is, but when I think about like writing a book about a writer in Maine or any part of New England, I guess my brain just goes to one place, and maybe Looking Glass Sound is going to change that for me. All right, so that's all the books that I'm excited for the first half plus month of this year, 2023. I think it's only 14 books, maybe 15 so far. I do have, again, like 5 of them here with me, so other than the one I've already read, I'm probably going to get through these pretty quickly, and then I will let you know my thoughts on them. But for now, thank you for hanging out. Sorry again that I didn't say my name until now, and see you in my next video.